Welcome to the Grassroots Army podcast. This platform is for common sense people looking for up-to-date, accurate, and truthful information without the hot garbage corporate media bias. The power of one can lead to the power of many. You never know what small act that you may say or do that may literally change the lives of millions tomorrow. And don't you ever think that you can't make a difference, because you can. I'm excited to have this conversation, obviously. It's always a pleasure to be with you, among you, especially for the amount of miles and hours that we have spent each other, not only on the road, but just have conversation. And I've grown to love you. All right.
Well.
I consider you a close personal friend. We've had a lot of good locker room talk, and I think this conversation is needed today. And I think we need to clear the air about a lot of different subjects, about politics, about life. Some of the things I want to talk about is what you've done in your life. But right now, Governor, are you going to enter this race, yes or no?
50-50.
We're still, folks, it has been 50-50 for the past year and a half since I've talked with Kevin.
Here's what I've said the whole time, is that I don't believe the campaign should be longer than 12 months. And last night, a supporter came up to me and he said, it's total BS that you haven't announced. And I said, if I announce tomorrow, when can you vote? He said, not till November. I said, you're right. So take your underwear, untie the knot, and relax.
And I think we need to elaborate on this, because I totally agree with you. Both of us ran last time, obviously, in the gubernatorial race. And the campaigns are never ending. It's like one, like even with the presidential one, it ended, and already like you can see that J.D. Vance may or may not be already starting his campaign for the next election cycle, and it burns people out. And Michigan's burned out. You can tell, from the crowds, from the people, from the online activity, is people are literally burned out with politics. I'm burned out with politics.
To me, it's sad, because there's a group of people that have turned political events into their social lives.
Yeah.
They don't have any friends. They don't have any life other than showing up at these goofy ass meetings and complaining about how their lives are screwed up, how screwed up the state is. But when you ask them to do something, when you ask them to focus, they look at you like, oh, why would I do that? If we solve these problems, I won't have a social life. I won't have anything to complain about.
And it goes along with the social media influencers. I have literally went on my X platform and unfollowed everyone political. And I followed the people who are motivating and inspiring on the subjects that I like. And I talk to you about the Egyptian pyramids and the Mayan pyramids and the ancient civilization stuff that I get into. Those are the people I follow now. And my life has gotten remarkably better, happier. I'm more at peace, because all it is just all this clickbait stuff that keeps people's emotions, like the Epstein list.
Yeah.
You always hear these social media influencers, bombshell report, breaking news, and it's always nothing.
Yeah. I do want to clarify my last statement for a sec too, because it's great that people are interested and care, but it's not great when you are in a position to do nothing but complain and judge and be a victim. And a lot of these people are stuck in that. And you know what? They deserve more. It's a byproduct of bad leadership, bad politics, shitty politics, and manipulation of these people. And they don't know what to do. So they all group together like sheep.
Yes, they do. And we've seen that kind of brain mentality, or that brainwashing mentality during the pandemic and everything else. Well, let's go into that, because I think you just hit on something that was very important. Like, you've been in multiple businesses, multiple successful businesses. And if you ever had the mentality that a lot of these people bring to politics, you would never be successful.
Absolutely
Negative,
not.
no vision, constantly complain. These are the people you don't hire, right?
They're the people that you actually, when you have a successful business, the way I describe it, people accept responsibility, people participate, people are energized to go outside their circle, not stay in it, to go outside their circle and bring others in. And this is part of the problem with the Republican Party. They have been so disenfranchised, the far right in many instances, that what they do is they shrink their circle because everybody agrees.
Yeah.
And then they start to say, well, if you don't say, do, act, exactly as I want, we're not going to vote for you. We're not going to support you. They don't even begin to understand other than their own reality. And the sad part is people's perceptions are the reality.
Correct.
So to break that is interesting, and it's unpopular. And most candidates don't have the kahunas to bring it up because they're afraid that they'll lose a vote.
Yeah. And it's like what you said, your focus is your reality. And the reason they don't is, number one, they don't want to lose the vote. But number two, they don't want to put themselves out there to be vulnerable. And I think that's what President Trump has done in politics is people aren't real. He has a history. We all have a history. But as long as you're upfront and address it and don't dwell on it, I think people just will forgive you if you just be yourself.
You know, my parents always used to say to me, actions speak louder than words. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, no one can accuse the guy who's sitting on his butt.
No.
Nobody can accuse the guy of not stirring the pot every single minute of every day. And those are actions. And that's how you create change. And you need to have people that take action versus just talk. And my concern for the Republicans right now, we've got a lot of candidates that like to talk.
Yeah.
And don't get us results as we continue to spiral in the toilet bowl of where we stand with other states.
Yep. I mean, yeah, 100%. Let's go back to the governor's race and the 50-50 that you're in. You know, I want to bring up, because people don't realize the amount of money people are saying that this is going to take for you to pay out personally, not raise.
Yeah.
People are saying that you're going to have to come up with $15 to $20 million of your own money to compete in this thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They say that because name recognition is so important. And the Detroit media market is one of the most expensive media markets in the country when it comes to politics. And it's how the left controls the right. Because candidly, in the last gubernatorial election, even though Gretchen didn't have to dig deep into her money, she outspent Tudor 8-1.
Yeah.
And literally gave us the second biggest defeat in the history of our state. When Dick DeVos ran and spent the most money of any gubernatorial candidate in the history of our state, the Dems outspent Dick DeVos 3-1.
What did he spend, you know?
I think he spent $46 million or, you know, we got to check that. Would somebody check that just so we can get that correct? It was 46 million or 26 million. Just if you go to ChatGPT, Dick DeVos, gubernatorial candidate, how much did he spend?
And that was in the general, correct? And that was his own money?
That was his own money as he was trying to raise money. And candidly, none of the candidates on the gubernatorial side are knocking it out of the park. They're raising $1 million. They're raising a couple million.
Currently?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. There's no way. Like John James is over 2. Eric Nesbitt is 2. The other candidates aren't even worth mentioning because they haven't fundraised anything.
Right.
So they're not going to even be able to touch the Soros money, if you want to call it, or what's going to come in the Democrat side. And even Dugan, right? I mean.
Well, Dugan actually, he's strategic. He's smart because in his last filing, he showed that he was the leading fundraiser by
42.5.
42.5 million. Okay.
So Dugan's fundraising though.
So
his
Dugan's
billboards
fundraising.
Are everywhere, by the way.
Dugan's fundraising, but he's really smart because he showed that he beat Jocelyn Benson by $220,000 in the last fundraising quarter. But what he didn't tell everybody is he transferred $1 million from his mayoral fundraising into his gubernatorial campaign. So, you know, I can get a lot of support from the Republican Party as far as a candidate in the primary if I stroke a check for $10 million or $20 million. And in fact, I've actually had Republicans say, if you're willing to write a check, Kevin, for $20 million, we'll support you. When I say, would you match it? And these are all people who could. They go cross-eyed. Well, you know, we can't do that until after the primary.
You know, I don't care who you are and how much money you've accumulated to come out of your own pocket. You know, Dick DeVos came out 40 million. They're expecting you to come out 15 to 20 million. I mean, for those of you out there who invest, right? If you just do the compound interest of 15 to 20 million at 8%, it grows into something substantial in a generation.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's generational wealth, but they want you to go out there and burn it. And not only burn it, there's no guarantees, as we are well aware of.
Right. You know, last time I spent $8.5 million. We had committed 10. We raised just under $1 million from very, very generous people in the state of Michigan. And I think what we need to understand is we are approaching 2026. You keep hearing that John James has name recognition. Well,
Yeah.
John James has been in Macomb, you know, for 2 terms as Congress. They spent last cycle $42 million on John James. And when you're in Congress, you fundraise every week. So he has millions of dollars that he has raised sitting in a bank account that he can transfer to himself for a gubernatorial race. You know, his name recognition is going to be broader, but the depth of John James, you know, how many people like him? I can tell you that John's got some work to do if he wants to have a chance.
Yeah, and we can go all day. I've reached out to John and his campaign to come on my show and just have a conversation because his conservative rating is horrible.
Very low.
It's like
58% voting
Yeah,
record.
it's very bad. They don't want to come on the show, have an open conversation. He has name recognition. I mean, and this is what's frustrating, I think, for those of us who are still in politics is people, the majority of the voting base do not care. They don't care until the month of the election and where they see the
Right.
commercials and everything else. So they're not, I don't want to say they're uneducated. They just don't care, and they're going to vote where they see in the last month. And so to your point, I think you announced in November in the last gubernatorial race, correct?
Yeah, I did.
So in 9 months, you were able to do that. That's impressive. And I want to get into the consultants here in a second, but with John James running from the basement, they can do it because he is everything that people think that the Republican Party should be. He's a former combat Apache helicopter pilot, West Point grad. He is a Black American. And so he check marks all these boxes.
For the virtue
Yeah.
group in the Republican Party,
And that's
he
the-
does, yes.
But for the politician, or not the stances, the conservatism, what do you stand for? I don't think I've ever seen him come out about DEI and West Point. Like what's his view on that? I don't know. What's his view on implicit bias training that I had to go through as a healthcare professional when back in July, I think 2020, when Whitmer signed an executive order stating that I'm a racist as a healthcare professional and I need training every 2 years to teach me not to base my care and my decisions if a person is a different race than a white person.
Yeah. You know, the definition of racism is funny because it's Charlie Kirk, is it? The young guy that's on social media all the time, and he talks to college kids.
Yes, Charlie Kirk.
He gave the most interesting talk on racism the other day with a young Black man. And he was challenging all of the left's implicit bias, racist comments, and countering with facts that are unchallengeable.
Yeah, they're facts.
They're facts. And you can look them up. And you know what? I was surprised by some of the things Charlie said. And
Yeah.
I looked them up, and even ChatGPT
Yeah,
couldn't lie.
yeah, they're right
you,
there.
You know what? Do you realize that Black people in America, okay, are the most financially successful across the spectrum of Black people in any other country in the world?
I did not know that statistic.
That Black Americans would be in the 95th percentile for income in any other country in the world on average. Terrible. That Black Americans have more successful businesses in America. You know, this concept of racism is a really funny thing.
They gaslight.
You know, and by the way, Black people have had challenges. I get it.
Yeah.
The question is, do they want to work through them? When Asian people had challenges in America, they worked through them. When the Irish had challenges in America, they worked through them. The Italians, you know, there's a segment of the black population, whether we like it or not, that has made a ton of money off of creating this victim mentality
Yeah.
instead of looking at all the positives for the black community. And I think the black community has tremendous opportunity, and they're doing a great job and can do better if we give them the chance. And we give them the chance by giving everyone a chance, not by selectively.
Well, it just doesn't fit their narrative, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of the left and their kind of gaslighting and what they put out. I mean, just look what's going on with the National Guard going in D.C. and cleaning it up, right? Tremendous results of getting rid of crime. And what's happened in Chicago? Every weekend, 20 people get shot, 9 people are dead.
Well, I'm willing to say one thing. J.B. Pritzker doesn't hang out on the South Side.
No, he does not.
You know,
No.
and when he says Chicago's safe and he walks down, you know, the Miracle Mile in Chicago with his 8-man security detail
Correct.
surrounding him,
Yeah.
Chicago looks safe.
Yeah,
My son works on the South Side of Chicago.
and I have many
And
many
it is a
former
war
players,
zone.
former players from that, and it is a war zone. It
Yeah.
literally is. And it's funny. I just did a video just yesterday talking about, hey, there was 50 people wounded by gunshots, 9 people died on the southern border, illegal immigration. I said, oh no, it wasn't southern border; it was in Chicago.
Yeah.
So if it was illegal immigrants that happened, it would be all over the news. It would be all over the world. But that happens daily, every weekend in Chicago and a lot of other cities that are run by Democrats.
Yeah, I think you just hit on it, that those numbers happen almost every weekend
Yeah.
in Chicago. And what I don't understand is the complete disregard by the mayor of Chicago, the complete disregard by the governor of Chicago for the people who inhabit the South Side. Those are good people. Not everybody there is a banger. Not everybody there is a thief. There are hardworking people that deserve and expect the police to protect them. And they can't. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you know, a threat to democracy? Well, what a crock. And by the way, the mayor doesn't even know that Illinois, nor does the governor, the way he speaks, it's a republic, guys. It's not a democracy.
Correct.
And part of the problem is that you don't understand your responsibility in a republic to your people. And they need to fix that.
I was really hoping that you would run. I've been very vocal on this because I really think we just need that
We
kind
got
of
a
business
50-50
mentality.
chance.
A 50-50 chance. Donate here for that 50-50 chance, folks.
You know what? Let's head down to the casino and let them roll.
But, you know, for 15, 20 million, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would not put that amount of money into a race. And we can go on and on about the garbage of politics and everything else.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you this, that I have been blessed with my businesses, and I'm not going to apologize for being successful. I would give that money in a heartbeat back to Michigan to represent them and do the right thing if I thought people would actually appreciate the loss and the commitment. You know, I focused on social media since the campaign because I wanted people to get to know that the only reason I was even considering participating is for them, is to put forth an idea of what I believe Michigan should be. And like Ronald Reagan said, that shining city on a hill.
Yeah.
I believe Michigan should be the shining state on a hill, and we're not.
I think the number one, you were blessed. We're all blessed, obviously, right? You earned your money and your success. I mean, so I don't want people to think you're blessed that it was given. Like, I know Kevin personally, he's bust his butt, the things he stands for. You don't even know who this man is. I spent a lot of time with you. He worked his butt off to get where he's at, and he deserves every amount of success that you've had in your past and what you're attracting now. But number two, it's a thankless job. Like, people they want somebody else to do all the hard work. They want someone else to put all their own money in. It is a thankless job. And you're like, holy cow, do you understand the amount of time, money, and effort it takes to even run?
Yeah.
And people just don't understand. It's like you walk a mile in that man's shoes, right?
Yeah.
And they don't.
I don't want people to feel sorry for me.
Oh, not at all.
But at the same time, you know, if you are a conservative, if you have conservative values and you want to see Michigan change, you have to realize, you got to get outside your little bubble and realize the sacrifice, not only for the candidates, but that you as the individual, the voter, needs to make to have an opportunity to change our state. Because as the unions pour in outside money, as you know, the George Soroses on the Democratic side pour in outside money, all of that needs to be counterbalanced by what the citizens contribute and who they get behind. And you know what? Having 11 people in a primary is a shit show.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible.
It's a shit show. And it keeps us from putting forth the best people. And here's why. The grassroots has a higher level of participation in the primary than the general population. And they influence who we put forward.
Yes.
And the general population, if they reject it, the whole state suffers.
And I think that's why they run all these different candidates. They're scared of people like you getting a foothold and actually making change, because it's a good old boys and good old girls club up in Lansing, Republican and Democrats, both sides. And so when you have all the, and it seems like it's always the Republican side that they do this shit, right? There's always like 10 or 11 people in a primary, and the Democrats run 1, 2, maybe 3, but they split up the vote. And you have all these people saying the same thing, and you got chunks of voting blocks that go to these grassroots folks that are going to take 40 or 50 or 60. That adds up when you got 5 of them in there.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be interesting, because let's just say we go to an election right now. And I think that you've got Carla Wagner, you've got Anthony Hudson, you've got Mike Cox, you've got Tom Leonard, you've got Eric Nesbitt, you've got John James. Who else is out there?
That's all I know.
There's still talk that, you know, I saw Perry and John Yob together the other day at a Tiger game.
Weren't you at
the
that
Tiger
game?
Baseball? I was at the baseball game.
I was going to text you and say, hey, did you see our bets?
They were sitting right over by me, and I thought to myself, oh, God. You know, here comes the quality guru again, and John's milking the cow. You go, John Yob.
Yep.
It's a consultant who's taking advantage of a guy who actually wants to do something right for Michigan. But that's okay. But digressing, so we have a primary, and let's just say the person who wins the primary might win with 20% of the vote.
Yeah. How are they going to do in the general?
How are they going to do in the general? You don't think that's going to be an extremist?
Yeah.
That is going to be rejected? What we really need to do, and I've been there, you've been there. I respect people who want to run.
Yeah.
But for God's sakes, look in the mirror.
And what do you bring to the table?
And say, can you win versus divide and split the party? Can you win in a general with your idea or your concept? And will it benefit the left as well as the right? And man, it's part of why I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
Why should I invest in a crapshoot, even though all I want to do is help the people of Michigan?
Yeah, when you have that broad of a race, it's going to be very hard, even with the amount of money, because the voting is going to be split up. That's what happened last time. If you took me, Ryan Kelly, and yourself, and we combined our votes, I wish we would have had we said this before. I wish we would have had a conversation before I even thought about announcing, where I would just sit down and meet with you and just talk some things out. I never would have ran, because your policies, and we can get into this about what you stood for education, what you stood for energy, what you stand for the state income tax. You said all this stuff back in the last election cycle.
Of course.
It's not nothing that you came up with, but now it seems like every candidate's talking about the things that you were talking about in the last election cycle. But I just wish we would have had that conversation, because we would never split up the vote. We would have never split up the vote.
Well, if we put all 3 of those together,
we win the primary without the Trump endorsement.
it was too big to rig.
Yeah.
The Democrats that crossed over to vote in the primary to get a candidate that made it easier for them would have been beaten. even the Trump endorsement would have been,
we would have won.
we would have won.
Well, we probably would have got the Trump endorsement because we would have had the polls.
You know what? That's
Right.
entirely possible
That's
as well.
probably.
But
Let's go into the gubernatorial candidates right now, because
Yep.
I want to touch base, because I'm not
Yep.
here to make any friends and sugarcoat anything. We have two irrelevant candidates, Carla Wagner, Anthony Hudson, don't have a snowball chance in hell of even probably getting on the ballot. And they're not going to be able to fundraise, right? And I think with Anthony Hudson, he got a little TikTok fame, and that's where I think the problem with politics is I've grown many different platforms multiple times. I've been banned off Facebook. I've been banned off YouTube. I've been kicked off. I'm on my 4th TikTok profile. I can grow platforms very quick, hundreds of thousands of followers. And that's what Anthony Hudson has done. He's gone on TikTok. He's run as president as an independent against Trump. He ran for Congress, raised a good amount of money, over 100 grand for Congress, but found out that he's pocketing his monthly salary from that without telling his volunteers. But he says it's legal, which is legal, but doesn't make it right. But he got a little TikTok fame, right? Because he goes on there and he rants. And so what happens to the normal person with social media is their ego starts getting involved, and they tend to think that you're relevant. And I'm here to tell you folks, unless you have over 1 million followers, you're not relevant. You may bump the needle one way or another, but you're not relevant. If like Charlie Kirk is relevant, Turning Point USA and the things that they run, that's relevancy. And that guy's built that up over the last decade to do just that. But just because you have 100,000 followers or you do a petition, you get 100,000 signatures, doesn't make you, number one, qualified to run the state. Number two, it doesn't give you what you need to actually win. I mean, even in the general, we need what, 2.2 million votes in the state of Michigan? I think
Roughly.
over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you have that following of just people strictly in Michigan, you don't have a chance. No matter what you say, all the bullet points you say, it just, those types of people shouldn't be running. God bless them for running to put themselves out there. But I think a lot of times the reason that they're running is because their ego. They like the attention. They like that little fame. And it's not right.
Well, they could get a lot of attention by getting behind the right candidate.
Correct.
And actually being productive, because I operate under this theory that the issues are always going to be the same in politics. They're going to be food, shelter, transportation, which are all related to the economy and safety and security in our families. You've got education that goes into there, and really regulations or taxes are byproducts of the things that I just spoke about, because they're the engines that drive our whole country. And there's horse trading. People are going to agree, in my view, on 85 to 90% of how they want America to be. And really, what we disagree on is that 10 to 15%. And that's where the horse trading comes in. You don't have to sell your soul to do the right thing, to be able to do better for our state or do better for our country. But these people get amped up. And, I get it. It's exciting. It's energizing to have people come in, at you, but you have to be a realist. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? A lot of these people would rather be right, and that affects the state. It hurts everybody.
Yeah, it does.
When they do that. And, Garrett, I just want to point out one thing in your last statement. I'm irrelevant because I don't have 1 million followers.
Yeah. Got to pay for them 15 to 20 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And guess what? I'm not sure it's worth it.
So 40-60 now?
40-60 today. I mean, but there's still time.
There's still time.
There's still time. Wait, actually, no. You know what? 51-49.
So the point is that with that is you're exactly right. And people tend to think that you can pay for a following. Social media has been so with their algorithms and everything else, like no matter how much money you put into a social media platform,
they manipulate it.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get the following. You really have to go out there, post several times a day. You got to do it for long periods of time, or something hits and you get a substantial amount of following, like in my case with the first Facebook group that blew up to 400,000 and a very high energy time with the lockdowns. But the point is if you don't have the money to get the name recognition and do the media, because unfortunately you do have to have commercials, and social media is going to take a chunk of that away from the corporate media. but you just don't have a snowball chance in hell in winning because all the Republicans say the same thing. We're all pro Second Amendment. We're all for conservative values. We're all for, businesses and capitalism and everything that
Well,
makes this
we
country
say
great.
we are.
Well, yeah,
We say we
doing.
are. I mean, look at Michigan.
Correct.
We had a number of Republicans that just voted, and I completely disagree with this,
Yeah.
for a 51-cent increase per gallon in taxes. They want to add that to our current gas tax. We had Republicans that voted for that increase because they can't figure out how to fund the roads with record budgets that are growing out of control. And you know what? They can't figure it out because it requires difficult decisions. It requires prioritizing things. It requires saying no. There's always more great ideas than there is money.
Yeah.
And if you have not lived your life having to make tough decisions, you're never going to be able to represent the people and explain why you made that tough decision and have them say, you know what? That makes sense. And I understand now. And it's okay. I'm not going to say, well, I'll never vote for you again because you did that. It's crazy. The other thing too, Garrett, that I want to interject. If we've got 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 candidates and we all talk about the same thing, how do you differentiate yourself and have people listen? Because certainly going to Lincoln dinners around the state doesn't give you the time to differentiate yourself when you drive 5 hours to talk for 10 minutes and half the people there aren't listening. They really don't care. But you have to do it because that's the system. That's how it works. And so what comes down to it is you start to say negative things about the other people running. You may attack factual things that they did, or you may attack unfactual things to try and make them look bad. And then you've got the party saying, oh, we're split. And, oh, we should run campaigns where everyone's nice. But once again, how do you differentiate yourself? The issues do not change.
No, they don't. And just go into that, you gave me like post-traumatic stress with the garbage events and Lincoln days. And I mean, holy cow, even the last cycle, we had 5 or 6 debates within 60 days. Is that what we did?
Yeah.
Not to mention the multiple governor forums. Every county wants to have their own forum. And if you don't show up, you're a rhino and you're hiding. You're like, actually, I'm exhausted from a 20-hour drive going up to the UP and down. And I just don't feel like I want to do it this weekend. And it's so, and that's why I agree with you with this like 9-month window that we should have for politicians to announce, to get the signatures. Even if you have to bring the signatures down, I don't care. But the reason it's such a longer cycle is because consultants want their hands in the pockets. That's who's making all the money. And they got all their ends. They got all their networks to get with corporate media, and they're getting points off the media buy. So all these consultants are getting money. So no wonder they want the 2 to 3 to 4 year gosh darn political cycle, because they just line their pocketbooks full of people's hard-earned money, and it's garbage. It's total garbage on how this whole system is. And you're right. We need to shorten it. It needs to be 9 months. We should have 2 debates on TV live for everyone to see, right? If you want to tune in, hear what it is. It's going to be 2 hours. We're going to ask the questions, and that's where you hash it out.
See, there are some candidates that are going to say, whoa, 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 you're limiting our First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
And I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not saying that you can't talk. I'm not saying that you can't get out there and express what your views are. But the candidates who like these long campaigns are asking you for money.
Yeah.
They're asking you to, give your blood oath that you're going to support them. And that's the wrong thing. I was at an event last night in the 9th District. And it's funny because a guy came up to me who is a candidate for one of the positions in the 26th election. I'm not going to say who. And he wanted to sign citizen-only voting, the petition.
Yeah.
And so he's signing it, and a certain gubernatorial candidate comes up and says, be careful, he just signed my petition, and I don't want that name thrown out. And he looked at me and he goes, I thought that I was signing a ballot proposal. I didn't realize that I was signing a gubernatorial petition, and people get confused.
Yeah.
And sign this, do this. Part of the problem.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Let's talk about the petitions. Obviously, you ran last time, and if you ran again, I would think you would run again of eliminating the state income tax that makes all the Republicans and Democrats, by the way, butthole pucker in Lansing for some reason. But we have an AxeMITax petition with Carla Wagner, and they don't release how many signatures they've had yet, which is always a red flag to me, because this is where I get discouraged about petitions that are not backed by money. And you and I just had this conversation. If you aren't backed by money, what's the odds of you actually getting this thing through? But not only that, having the money backing to get on and educate people on what to vote for.
Yeah.
Because the other side is going to bombard it with a negative campaign. And if you don't have the money, I don't care if you even get the 600,000 signatures, you don't have the money to come beat what's coming at you with the negative media that's going to be throwing your way, and it's not going to be successful. So you have all these grassroots volunteers busting their fanny, and God bless every single one of you. But when you get behind these petitions that don't have any money or any backing, it's a waste of time.
Well, AxeMITax, the concept of no property taxes, is wonderful.
Yeah, I'd love it. Please.
Absolutely love it. All right. You have to say that it's radical. And I interviewed Carla, and God, she's bright and she's charismatic, and I give her a whole lot of kudos. But I don't know. Let's just say that it gets on the ballot. Let's just say that it gets voted in. I don't know that state government can mandate to the county. And remember that state government only collects 0.5 mils of property tax at the state level. It's your county. I don't know that state government can mandate to the county that they cannot have a fee on property. I don't know the answer. I suspect that it would be challenged legally. I don't know constitutionally. And I'm not saying that I don't support it, but you better be careful what you ask for. And more importantly, because it sounds so great, Carla's going to peel off a voting block that may prevent a more qualified candidate to get in.
One issue voting, right?
It's one issue voting, and that bites us. And
so let me ask you this: so there's a big push right now in Florida, and let's break down Florida, and they eliminate the property tax, right? I've seen that circulated on social media.
There's discussion in Florida. Yep.
Okay, and they're doing it like the legislative way, right?
Correct.
I think they're trying to do it that way instead of a ballot initiative. But if you look at Florida and the success, and I don't know what their budget is down there, and I don't know how much money that state is bringing in, but I tend to think that it's a very successful state financially. Like, they're doing well down there.
There's no question.
So, and they don't have state income tax, right?
No income tax.
And so they have done their proper steps to put them in a position so they can talk about eliminating the property tax.
Yeah.
But there is a process. Now, what I find interesting is, like, when you try to explain that to people, normal average folk, they don't want to hear any of the process. They just want to say, no, we need to eliminate it. Like, there's a process to these things. You got to make Michigan business friendly. You got to attract businesses. You got to attract people back to the state and invest in their local communities and bring down the budget. We need to Doge Michigan, which every gosh darn candidate has been saying ever since Trump is doing it. We agree with all that, but there's a process. And once a decade or so of doing the right things and getting the right people elected to follow through with what they're actually doing and running the state as a business, then you can have those types of conversations, because we all want to eliminate as much taxes as possible, but you just can't pull the plug.
Well, the devil's in the details, okay? So from an individual perspective, I'm going to talk about overall tax burden on each citizen in Michigan versus each citizen in Florida, because they're very close, all right? So Florida doesn't have a personal income tax, but what they do have is a series of fees for things that people can choose to do or not do. They also have a slightly higher sales tax, which is a tax by choice.
Yeah, if you don't want to buy it,
if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it, or buy something less expensive.
Correct.
And then you look at they're corporations. And by the way, Florida in demographic groups, almost every category that's measured, births, high schoolers, first-time workers, middle-aged workers, seniors are growing. In Michigan, the only category that's growing is 65 and older. We have the largest outflow of people. But what that means is because there are young folks that are generating taxes, the overall tax burden stays lower. Okay, point one. Now let's separate and say if you're not an individual, you're a corporation. And corporations are relocating to Florida for a number of reasons. One, where corporations are being built, the land is inexpensive. Two, inland Florida, the cost of power is dramatically less than the cost of power in Michigan. Three, the employee pool is not only better educated, but it's larger and it is not as tied to the unions. So, the devil's in the details. And to create that perfect environment, you can't pick a single item. If you do, you're setting yourself up to fail.
And that's frustrating because people don't care about everything. Well, most people,
Well, they don't understand.
they don't. And that's where we need, and you're 50-50. I still hope there's a small part of me hoping, because I've had these conversations with you, and I truly believe that your type of mentality, even if it's not you, I just wish we had that type of mentality in some candidate who is going to bring that common sense, that business smarts in the details that we need to have a little vision of the 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the things that you've already talked about, what we talked about with the state income tax, with education, and with energy. And energy it's such a big thing that's going to affect Michigan and the other states in the union. And if you don't plan for it, we're going to be left behind.
Yep.
And that's with AI, hybrid vehicles, all those kind of things. We are screwed unless we start to do common sense, energy dense solutions and do the above all approach. I don't, solar, wind, nuclear, natural gas, coal, do it all.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, but I want to go back to
Well, don't
the
you agree
property
with that?
tax. But I'll get there in a sec. But I want to go back to the property
You should
tax for a
agree with
minute,
what I say.
because you said so. So when I was talking with Carla, I learned something that I didn't know, that we had 180,000 foreclosures that were started in the state of Michigan, or that's the number that she said. I'm presuming that she is a subject matter expert. So if I'm wrong, Carla, I'm wrong because you misled me.
180,000?
That's what she said.
Okay.
So here's my question. If you can protect people from losing their property who are struggling to pay their property tax, if you take all those foreclosures away, is property tax suddenly okay? Because her big point was it is wrong. You lose your spouse, you lose your house. They had all these acronyms, all these really catchy sayings. And she's right. People at different phases have different challenges. The question is, AxeMITax isn't solving the problem that she brought up. Nobody likes taxes. I don't think we should have a sales tax.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think I should have to pay for my groceries. I should just be able to walk right in, But the reality is that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And at least today, governments require taxes, and property is a way of doing it. Now, do they do it correctly? That's the conversation. Should it be more equitable? That's the conversation. Should it protect the rights of citizens who have invested in a property for years? And think about it. You get a mortgage, okay, when you buy your house, or most people do, and you've paid off your mortgage, but you hit a rough spot, and the government comes in and takes your house that you paid for away from you. Well, the problem is that the government's taking away what you paid for.
Yeah.
And I think that the solution lays in alternatives. Government shouldn't be able to charge you a usury interest rate on your debt instead of helping you.
Yeah.
you know. And right now, if you are 24 months and 1 day delinquent with your property taxes, the government comes in and says, here, let me help you. We're going to charge you 25% retroactively on all your debt. That's not right.
No.
Okay. But that's a nuanced detail. How do we solve the issue for the 180,000 without destroying government, without tearing it down, without creating unintended consequences? And I'm not going to say that I have the solutions because I haven't put the time into it.
Yeah.
But I do think that dealing with the problem versus dealing with symptoms of the problem, the symptoms are what get people all emotional.
Yeah. It's a decade. It's a decade of work at least to start scratching the surface of things. Like even 1 term or 2 terms, you can start the foundation, but to really see the effects of what you've done is going to be 2 decades in.
Yeah.
It's a long time. So let's get back to the all of the above approach. Why
Yeah.
don't you agree? Because I think people, if you want to have solar on your house, go ahead. If you want to have one of those windmills in your yard to power water, that's
here's
fine.
why I'm not sure I agree with you. Okay, you want to have solar on your house. Do you have solar on your house if the government doesn't subsidize it?
That would
Do
be,
you have wind
yeah.
farms if the government doesn't subsidize it? And, you know, it's a scam. It's a
Yeah.
pyramid scheme of grants to different businesses.
And I don't agree with that. That's garbage.
And so when I say that I don't agree that we should have all of them,
Yeah.
if they can stand on their own 2 feet,
I agree with
great.
that. Yep.
Okay. Right now, we have an infrastructure in America, which, by the way, is the greatest infrastructure in the world, albeit it is starting to age. And what I mean by that is how we create electricity, how we generate power. The technology is old.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is transition to new technologies. I question the fact, why is it that around the world, small nuclear reactors are being recognized as safe, as less expensive, as necessary, and, oh, by the way, environmentally friendly?
Way less of a footprint.
Way less of a footprint.
Yep.
And yet in America, we can't get the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to approve nuclear reactors. And we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on old style 3-mile island plants to keep them operating,
Yeah.
when we could take that money and have a smaller footprint, have a safer, newer technology, and have it up and running in a very short period of time.
And I can't quote this on me, but they recycle like 90% of their waste, don't they? The radioactive waste. I think the small modular reactors do.
Absolutely,
I think
they
France is doing it right now.
France does it. Germany does it. Italy does it. There's a whole bunch of countries that do it. You know, look at our military. We have nuclear submarines.
Yep.
And
Aircraft carriers.
aircraft
They want to
carriers.
do it on the moon.
They want to do it on the moon. They
Yep.
want to do it all over. Why the hell aren't we dealing with this new technology constructively and having it benefit the American citizen? Instead of having consumers say, oh, we're going to subsidize your car, we're going to subsidize your house with solar panels and electric. That's all a scam. It's all control.
The
It's
green
all
energy scam.
bullshit.
It's been proven.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. Is bullshit French?
We'll say it's French American.
French American. Okay.
That would be the Montreal folks, isn't it? The French Canadians.
There you go.
Passionate bunch.
Sorry.
I want to go into also with education because it's horrible right now with the literacy rates, right, in the state of Michigan.
Yep.
And you've had a young lady on 2 of your podcasts that I watched, and with the program that she does, it's been very successful.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Pam Good.
Okay. And what's the program?
Beyond Basics.
Beyond Basics. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And that was some of the things that you talked about that we need to institute here in the state of Michigan because our kids, they don't know how to read.
Well, they don't. And, you know, a lot of folks don't understand that reading is not a race thing.
Yeah.
That's utterly false. It's not a race thing. We don't teach reading in Michigan past the third grade. Okay, so when you look at third grade scores, and in Detroit, 17% of third graders can read at the third grade level. Across the state, it's well south of 50% that third graders can read. So Beyond Basics is an interesting deal, but Michigan isn't ready to say, we're going to fix all the third graders, we're going to fix the fourth graders, the fifth graders, the sixth graders, the seventh graders, right on through 12th grade. And think about it. This past year, we graduated over 50% of our kids, send them off to college, and 50% of the kids or more can't read at grade level. They can read, but they can't read at grade level. So Pam has a strategy that I think is brilliant. And that is, why don't, instead of starting at third grade, why don't we start with 12th graders? Why don't we start with people who are unemployed because they can't read the application to get a job? Why don't we start with people who are making decisions about their lives, 12th graders, who maybe need to be able to read better to become a plumber, an electrician, to work in the skilled trades. See, all of these things, we have dumbed down America, and we have to start somewhere. I think there's an opportunity in Michigan if we start to deal with 12th graders, smaller number, and Beyond Basics is one-on-one tutoring, and it's 92% effective. Within 10 weeks, you can increase a student's reading skill level 2 to 3 years. Within 30 weeks, you can increase 5 years. If you go 30 months, you could have 92% of the people reading at grade level or above. And what does that do for our employability, our attractiveness to other countries? It's huge. To other companies, it's huge. They want to go where people are smart, and it's Gretchen just had a deal where she said, oh, there's two Japanese countries. She took, I think it was 18 people with her to Japan at the taxpayer's expense. And they are coming back with a commitment for, if I'm not mistaken, 300 jobs.
300.
300 jobs, and two Japanese companies are committing their technology to Michigan. I think it's great that 300 jobs, if the MEDC gets involved and they operate at the MEDC success level, that 300 will turn into 21 jobs because they normally receive 7% of the commitment that is promised to them up front for your tax dollars. And by the way, Gretchen spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this junket to take 18 people to Japan to get 300 jobs, when maybe we could have spent all of that money on educating people who are here in Michigan to do the jobs that are currently open, because we don't have a workforce that's educated enough to even get the simplest jobs. To work in assembly, you have to be able to read at the 8th grade level. 70% of our unemployed in Michigan can't read at the 8th grade level. That's of our unemployed. And by the way, we're the second highest unemployment in the country, our state.
When did this all go south? Because I remember when I was growing up in the 90s, like you heard about the states like Florida was horrible with education, right? And Michigan was, I thought at the time, and I may be wrong about this, was like we were doing good.
Michigan was doing great.
What happened, and when did it? Like what theory? What kind of application of something that they brought in? What kind of changed and made us start to go downhill?
Well, we started to politicize, in my opinion, the citizens of Michigan.
Okay.
We started to say that certain ethnic groups can't read. And so we're going to not focus on teaching them to read. We're going to change a process that we know works to a new process out of empathy.
Okay.
And so that's part of it. As unfortunately, some of the unions got involved, um, they started to say, we need to go in a different direction and we need to take away accountability and the rights. I remember as a kid, and you probably do too, something called parent teacher conferences.
Yep.
And they were every 3 months.
Yep.
And mom or dad
I used to be
showed up
scared
at
to
school.
death.
And I was scared to death
What are they gonna
because
say?
if my mama came out and she wasn't smiling,
Yep.
I was getting a whooping.
Yep.
There were consequences.
Huge consequences.
And now there's going to be a group that's going to say, oh, well, this group or that group, they don't have parents. You know what? Stop.
Yeah.
That's an excuse. How about we only accept results? How about we don't give up on things?
It's interesting when my wife and I go to those conferences.
Do they still have them?
They still have them. And the teachers always make a comment, thank you for showing up.
Huh.
Like, thank you for coming. Like, it's like even parents don't go, right? They just, it's almost like we have the mentality that we ship our kids off to school, we forget about them. And then we're just so busy with our own everyday lives that then they come back and we wonder why all the indoctrination and stuff happened underneath our very nose. And it wasn't until COVID when parents started to actually listen to the Zoom teaching and go, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are you saying to my kid?
Garrett, I'm going to challenge you. I don't think every school does parent-teacher conferences
No,
anymore.
I just know that mine does.
Maybe they do. And
I think it's important. You got to be in tune.
I think it's really important. I think that parents should have more rights than what schools give them.
Correct.
It's the parent's child, not the school's child. It's the family and the parents' son or daughter, not the state's son or daughter. And I think we need to encourage. Is it going to be tough? Yes. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. More parental involvement. You have posted significant clips showing the lack of transparency of what's going on in public schools. And it is astounding.
Yeah.
Absolutely astounding. Maybe that's where government gets involved. And I like smaller government, but there's a whole bunch of things in education, and education across America is critical, and in Michigan is even more so for me, that need to be addressed. And I was in Canada recently, and we can talk about that because it was a lot of fun. But I was talking to a young lady who is 16, who is going to college to get her welding degree. Canada doesn't have a vocational program. And to me, vocational schools were like always special ed.
Yeah.
They were less. They were somehow not as good. And I think that's totally wrong because I know a whole bunch of plumbers that are a hell of a lot smarter than I am.
And successful than a lot of other people.
A whole bunch of mechanics
Yep.
that are smarter than me. I know a whole bunch of electricians that are smarter than me, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yep.
And isn't it interesting that we need those job groups, but we've shamed people that have said, I don't want to go to college and I don't want to go to a vocational school. Maybe if we call vocational schools colleges and offered 2- and 4-year degrees in the vocation, we would start to create some pride, and people would start to say, hey, look, wow, I can be a plumber and make 70, 80, 90, 100, 150,000 bucks a year versus spend $250,000 on my underwater basket degree from several of our universities in the state of Michigan that pay 10 grand a year, and the employment rate is 1%. It's how we market it. It's how we package it. Maybe like Canada, instead of calling college, if you get a 4-year degree, we should call that university degree. But I do think that we need to have measures. And I think that colleges, for every degree that they offer, should be forced to publicize what the employment rate is,
Yeah.
what the average income of those degrees provide, and oh, by the way, how long it will take you to pay off your student loan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I went through that transition of if you didn't go to college, you weren't successful, right?
It's so
It's
wrong.
so wrong. And I think that tide has turned now, especially with social media, because there's so many people talking about this with the interest rates of a college education, and they'll never pay it off, right? Especially with the salaries that I can be making. And more people are talking about the trades and what they're doing. And it's starting to become more publicized and more popular, especially with this younger generation. They're just going back to the more traditional way of thinking, which I think is great. It's fantastic. Yeah, if you want to go to college and you want to do like some kind of professional degree, like a doctor or an attorney or a teacher, sure, absolutely. But you shouldn't have to go to college to go do a trade, right? Like you don't need to get your degree and then go into the trade. Just do it right out.
I, I, I couldn't agree more. It's so sad to me that there's a stigma to what we do.
Yeah.
Everybody has an ego.
Yep.
Okay? And everybody wants to be proud of themselves. Everybody wants to be proud of what they do or accomplish. It may vary how focused they are, the intensity that they bring out when they talk about it. But, one thing I know for sure is if you don't have pride, you're a loser. You're a loser. And who wants to be a loser? If you grow up saying, oh, my goal in life is to be a loser, well, guess what you're going to be?
You're going to be a loser 100% of the time.
So we've got to market, we've got to have a scenario where people can be proud of what they do. And
what is that, Kevin? So what do you think? Give me several things that people that can do or what they can do to be proud. What would those things be to you?
well, how do you measure pride? When it comes to work, a lot of people measure how much money they make.
Mhm.
Okay. What they are called. Titles really don't matter. It's the
Correct.
job that you do.
In the
But
service of people.
yeah, part of the disintegration of our workforce has been we've started to create all these stupid titles, because people want to feel better without working hard. It's like people want to get a medal for participating,
Correct.
and that's an ideology that I just can't subscribe to. I don't know if it's the left. I don't know if it's the middle. I don't know if it's the right, but I do know that I can't subscribe to it. People want to see that they've accomplished something. People want to be a part of something. And we have focused since the 60s on trying to split people off. Instead of being a part of something, we focused on the individual at the expense of the whole.
Yeah.
And that affects education, it affects society, it affects our communities, it affects crime, it affects income. There's consequences to actions. And I think that going, I don't want to say back to the old ways is better, because today's generation would say that the old ways are antiquated.
Well,
But you know what? I want to create a new way so today's generation has a work ethic. And Michigan was just voted the 50th state in America for having the lowest work ethic. Is that something we should be proud of?
no.
And you
Sounds
think
like communism.
it is.
That's what it
If you
sounds like
take
to
away
me.
all the incentive,
Yeah.
people will still go to work. People will still do a job. They just won't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that people understand how great America is.
Yeah.
And
Still is.
yeah, unless we give that away.
We were close with Kamala if she would have won. Like every morning
we were
when I
close
get
with
up,
Joe Biden giving it away.
correct.
Terrible.
Like he started the trend, right? It is like every morning when we wake up and I see what's going on with getting rid of the illegal immigration or the illegal immigrants, the crime, everything is going the way that we should, with America, the golden age of prosperity that President Trump continues to talk about. I'm hoping that it happens. I truly do as we go down this, but everybody is continually putting up roadblocks for his administration because I think the Democrats would rather see our country burn than President Trump be successful. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I think that it's not just President Trump, though, that trend has been there for a long time. I do think that Donald Trump is very unique in how he has um, consolidated the left and the focus of hatred that they have on a individual, but that drips off to the Republican Party, that drips off to philosophies, that that disintegrates the foundation of what America is built on. And I think that's the problem. And we've been going south for a long time. Both Republicans and Democrats have made that mistake. And we got to get back to making excuses. We've got to stop making excuses. I misspoke there for a sec. You know, if you are an illegal alien, if you are here illegally, what does that make you? You're illegal.
Yep.
And guess what? Either we say it's not okay to do illegal things or it is okay. So there's no in between. Now, if we are a country, and one of the strengths of America was always we were a country of law and order, guess what? They're not situational. And so maybe America needs to suffer a little bit itself. And maybe we need to stop giving away so much within our country to people who are capable of working because they don't feel like doing the job. And I've said this before. My first job was scrubbing toilets. And you know what? My dad said, you better damn well do it great.
Yeah.
You know, did I want to scrub toilets? No. I worked really hard to graduate through the toilet scrubbing. You know, when I got out of line, what did my parents do to teach me a lesson? They sent me to a pig farm to work on for the summer. They were dismayed when I really came back and had enjoyed working on the pig farm. You know, maybe that could have been a place for me.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with it? Nothing.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing.
You got to follow your heart.
You know, you got to follow your heart. You got to do and have an opportunity. I don't buy when we've got so many people sitting on their butts that people don't want to do a job. If you stop paying them and you start to say, look, we're going to let you starve if you aren't willing to get off your ass. And that's tough love.
Yeah.
I get it. There'll be 100 excuses. But get off your ass and do something. That's not too much to ask. And guess what? When you do that, you get your first paycheck. There's that first speck of pride.
Yeah, you earned it.
You earned it.
You earned it.
And is there anything wrong with earning a paycheck?
Nope.
May not be enough.
Yep.
But you know what? That should be the incentive for you to be able to say, what do I have to do to earn more? And it's not just money. You are earning a whole litany of values and morals that go along with that monetary reward that impact your spouse, impact your family, impact your cousins or your neighbors, your community. There's nothing negative about coming together and working and enjoying and celebrating success. Just a matter of how we package it.
So I want to go to the 9th district and what you witnessed last night because there was a straw poll, correct?
Yeah.
And who won that straw poll? The people who were running for governor. What was the winner?
I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I believe that Eric Nesbitt won the straw poll, and it was like 14 votes or 18 votes.
Yeah.
Not a huge number.
It's the 9th district, so.
Yeah. Carla Wagner finished second. I think that Mike Cox finished third. John James finished fourth or fifth. and the other candidates were somewhere. I even got a vote,
You got
and
a vote.
I wasn't on the ballot.
Did you vote for yourself?
No, I didn't
Oh,
vote.
okay.
I refused to vote. I thought about
I
it.
would have
I
voted
got to
for
be honest
myself.
with you. Had I voted, I would have voted for myself.
There you go. So
But I was there collecting signatures for citizens only voting. And remember, my big announcement was
Yeah, that you're going to help.
that I was going to focus on that for 60 days because I don't believe campaigns should be longer than.
Which I agree 100%. Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Why do you think John James finished so low?
Well, in that particular environment, I think a couple of things. That farmers support farmers.
Yeah.
And I think that gave Eric an edge. Eric was not there. I think that John James was so low because the 9th district has a very strong grassroots following.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of grassroots folks that John James needs to convince that he's the guy if he wants to be governor. And being in Washington, D.C. or sitting in his basement, he's not going to convince those folks.
No,
I think it's a bad campaign strategy that, in my case, there's a couple other candidates that won't respond or come on beyond the echo.
Who?
Eric Nesbitt won't call me back. Every time he sees me, oh, God bless you, shakes my hand. You look nice today. Eric, will you come on the podcast? Oh, for sure. Give me a call. We'll get it scheduled. I call, no response.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm going to put a call out right now. We're having Tom Leonard on. Me and you are going to have a
Tom
conversation.
Leonard's coming on the show.
I've talked to Mike Cox. You talked to Mike Cox. You talked to Carla. I talked to Anthony Hudson. Those are all done.
I've asked John James, and John responded. He said he was busy doing the work for the people of Michigan. And I said, well, John, I think that's great, but people need to know you better if you want to be our governor. And remember, John's lost 2 statewide elections.
Yes.
The only 2 statewide elections he's been in, he lost.
Yeah.
And so people have an opinion, and there's name recognition, but they recognize. I'm curious, okay? I'm not going to say that John James isn't the guy, but I don't know all of John James's issues. And I do know this, that I have a concern with what I'm seeing coming out of John James's camp.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
He hasn't earned my vote yet.
No.
Doesn't mean I won't vote for him.
Correct.
But I want him to earn it.
Yep.
And I want him to talk to the voters of Michigan.
And it's not even like and to me, Eric, we're going to get a hold of you. You got to come on the show. But with John, like my questions are, the pandemic is, what did you do during the pandemic? That's important to me. The mandates, the Second Amendment, red flag laws. Those are questions I'm going to ask, right? I want to know what his policy is for education, which is huge because I have 2 teenage boys. The literacy thing is huge to me. Energy is huge to me. The state income tax, AxeMITax. Those are the questions I want answered.
Well, so here's the thing, because I want to know all those things as well. All right. But I'm not setting them up.
No.
And it's interesting because when Mike Cox was on Beyond the Echo, I let him talk.
Yeah.
Okay. And he did a lot of talking. And it's for the viewers to decide whether or not he earned their vote or not. And everyone gets a chance to vote. But it's not ambushing these people. And I would caution, because during the pandemic, a lot of people did stupid stuff. We can reflect on what they did then, but you know what I want to know?
See how I transferred my seat right now? I'm getting all intense about this.
And here's what I want to know.
I am batting 1,000% on what I stood for, by the way. Everything that I stood for and said was proven to be right. Well, but go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But you know what?
That's my ego, Kevin. I had to go there.
You've got an ego?
A little bit.
Just a teeny one.
That's what people tell me.
As do I. Yeah. So either
but
that
I would agree.
Or they tell me that I'm abrasive. But what I want to know is, John or Eric or whoever, where were you on the issues during the pandemic?
Yeah, that's a simple question.
But what I really want to know is, where are you today?
Correct. Okay. Have you learned?
Are you willing to say, if you were running around with a face mask on and sounding like a sheep and acting like a sheep, like so many people in America were,
Yep. They don't want to talk about it, but that's what they did.
have you learned
They at least
anything?
question.
Have
And
you, and, you know, are you willing to say, you know what? Maybe I was wrong.
and you know what? I think people, because the majority of people did buy into it, right?
Yeah.
And I think as long as you're transparent, you answer those things honestly, people would be like, "Yep, I understand it." Because look, I have a healthcare background, right? So I knew how things worked and what was going to work, what didn't. So I have that belief system. But if I didn't have a healthcare background, I probably would have listened like a lot of other Americans, like, "Holy cow, is this Ebola? Are we all going to die?" And so initially, I probably would have bought into this thing too, which a lot of people did. But when the science and data started to come out and say, "Huh, well,
Well, the
there's
science and data didn't come out,
well, they did
actually.
not in the beginning,
Yeah.
right? But when
That
you
was the
had
problem.
states like Florida and what was it, South Dakota, they start doing things their own way, and there wasn't like COVID hell. Then I would have been like, well, wait a minute. And that's kind of what happened with the American public.
Yeah.
The same thing with the vaccine mandates and everything else is coming out with that stuff. But to get to your point, I agree with you 100%. I think initially, and I said this on my platforms, if you bought into it in the beginning, that's fine. You were afraid, like a lot of other people, you didn't have the medical background. Whether you were right or wrong, it does not matter. But as the science and data started to come out, you at least have to come out and question it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that's what President Trump did on his Truth Social post the other day. He's talking about Operation Warp Speed, which he always, put out on how great it was. But his post was going along the lines like, basically, was I lied to? Was I given the right information? And all I want is the American people to know is the right information. There's supposed to be coming some type of an announcement coming out on what was going on, because the CDC is at its throat right now with everyone at the CDC. And we're going to see how that plays out. But I agree with you 100%. Did you learn? What are you going to be doing now?
Yeah.
Because medical freedom's huge. And these are the simple questions. I don't believe in blindsiding candidates, right?
Well,
I don't.
it's not, are you anti-vax or not? That's not the issue. It's them talking. Another one that's really easy to talk about is the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
We just had a terrible incident. Once again, a mass shooting targeting our most innocent.
Yep.
And interesting to me that the last 5 mass shootings all have characteristics that are consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are they?
Transgender.
Transgender individuals who you could say don't have an identity.
No.
And they're angry at the world. Maybe their parents, out of love, supported these goofy ass ideas.
They normalized it.
Or there's a segment in our society that tried to normalize
Correct.
it. And you know what? It's not normal.
No. Get these people help.
Yeah. And so the first thing, I was appalled. I was absolutely sickened that the blood is still wet on the ground from kids being shot in this church. And the mayor comes out and says, we need gun control.
Yeah, I just want to throw up. Like yeah. And we all know, as you pro second just as much as I am, gun control does not work.
Well, gun control isn't the answer. And I mean, if we use the fact that in this case, a gun was used to kill people, so we should get rid of the gun.
Yep.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, America. Everyone better get a bicycle or some good tennis shoes, because more people are killed by automobiles.
Yeah.
More accidents, more burden on the healthcare system by automobiles. And I don't hear anybody saying,
get rid of cars.
Let's get rid of cars.
No.
And I realize it's a stretch, and those on the left are going to say, oh, that's so stupid to say. No, it's not.
No.
Before there were guns, people got killed by knives, by bows and arrows.
And they still do over in Europe.
By hands.
You always see mass
by vehicles.
U-Hauls, cars.
The other day.
Yep.
There was the day after, interestingly enough, and it's been really quiet, there was a mass injury scenario in the United States where a angry person took their car and drove it through a festival.
Yeah. I
And
read that.
and I think there were 27 people that
Yeah.
ended up in the hospital. I think that 2 or 3 people died from that. Um, you know, people who are bad, people who are sick, people who are angry,
They're going to find a way.
they're going to find a way.
Yep.
And we always look for balance. We always look for balance. But police officers, because a certain segment of our population doesn't want to fund them, aren't going to be on every corner like they used to be.
Yeah.
So the response times are slower. Well, you know what? Maybe there's a solution with constitutional carry.
Yeah.
I happen to believe in constitutional carry. I think if unless you lose the right by your actions, and then the penalties should be swift and severe, in my opinion. But let's say you're a felon. I don't think you should be able to carry a gun.
Correct.
I don't care what the felony was. You lose your right. You sacrifice because you did wrong to society.
Do you think there should be, and this is an interesting question. I don't think we've ever talked about this. People, depending on the type of felony, I know there's a variety of different felonies, but for the lesser felonies, do you think there's a way for them to earn that right back after 10, 20, 30 years of being a good citizen?
Yeah,
Or no?
I got to be honest with you, Garrett. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I don't
'cause
either.
I
I'm
haven't
just
thought
curious.
about it, but consequences.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, consequences ranged from being sent to my room, being grounded and not being able to watch TV or go out for days, weeks, or months,
Same. Yep.
getting my ass paddled.
What'd you get your butt paddled with?
Well, one was called the Board of Correction,
What was that?
and it was a wooden board
Yes.
with a handle on it. It looked
Like a frat board? Like,
it was like a
thank you,
frat
sir.
board.
Did you
Thank
say
you, sir,
thank
may I
you,
have
Mom,
another?
may I have
Thank you,
another?
Mom, may I have another? And the other was there was a really wide belt.
Yeah.
And my dad, when he was going to give it to me, would grab it and he'd snap it.
Does that still give you the goosebumps?
It gives me the goosebumps
Yeah.
because the next snap.
Pavlov's dogs for Kevin right there.
Oh, man.
The snapping.
But the point is there were consequences. And it is, you can't look for excuses. We've got laws, we've got rules, we've got regulations. Consequences need to be severe.
True.
Do people know in Michigan that prison inmates actually receive millions of dollars of taxpayers' money for suing the state because they don't like the food, they don't like the sheets in the prisons, they don't like the number of TV stations that are available to them? It's inhumane.
Yeah.
You know what? Give me chain gangs, for God's sakes.
Bring back the chain gangs. Like the Arizona sheriff. Remember the tent city?
Yeah, I
He's
love
like,
it.
if it's uncomfortable, don't come back.
Well,
If you're
you know
that
what?
uncomfortable.
You got a choice.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, even when there's chain gangs, there's going to be a cool hand Luke.
That's right.
And that's part of it. And for those of you who don't know Cool Hand Luke, watch the movie. You might learn something.
My mom and dad, I got hit with a board. It wasn't a paddle, it was a board. I don't even know what type of board it was, but she wrote a poem on it. When you're bad, you get a smack, you do it again, I'll be right back. And she still has it to this day. And I tried to get it when I had my kids. I said, can I have the board? And she's like, absolutely not. You're not hitting my grandbaby. So I was like, I got beat with that thing.
What our family one actually had a picture on it. And the picture was a kid bent over a barrel with a bare ass, and he had 2 welts on his cheek, and it was called the Board of Correction.
That's a
And
deterrent.
every time you got paddled, you had to sign your name to the back of it.
That's a deterrent.
True story. True story. My older brother, who was just a shit stirrer, God rest his soul. I mean, he could get into stuff that most people would never think of. And my mom would, all right, bend over. You're going to get the Board of Correction. One time he put his hand back there and she wasn't paying attention and she smacked him, hit him on the wrist and broke his wrist.
Wow. She's bringing some velocity. Way to go, Mama Rinke.
And you know what? In today's world, you go to jail for that.
That's
Your
right.
kids would be taken away.
That's right.
And I'll never forget the doctor, because I was younger and I got crated into the emergency room with my brother. Oh, my wrist, what did you do to my wrist? And the doctor comes out and he says, how'd you hurt your wrist? And he said, my mom was paddling me with the board. And the doctor looked at me and said, you must have deserved it.
Absolutely. With a cigarette probably hanging out of his mouth.
I don't know if he had a cigarette, but he did have a beer in his hand.
Oh, there you go. Old school doctor. We need to bring more of those back.
Yep.
So we put a shout out, the John James's campaign. We'd love to have a conversation with you. No blindside. Let's just talk about Michigan. What are you going to do?
Eric Nesbitt's as well.
Eric Nesbitt. I'll be reaching out to that team. We got Tom Leonard coming on, and that kind of firms up.
Carla's been on, but
Carla.
not as a gubernatorial candidate. But really, I think she's using her running as governor more to try and draw attention to AxeMITax.
Which, again,
because that's her passion.
And I get it. And I think it comes down to what we already said, is getting enough signatures, which I don't know if they are, because when you're not being transparent with the amount of signatures you have collected, that's a problem. Like when we did the Unlock Michigan petition, where we did, 539,000 in 80 days, we were always updating, like, hey, 50,000 just came in. Mm-hmm. We got 100. We're here. We do festivals, and we would show the stacks of petitions. And she does a good job with, especially on the Grassroots Army group that I manage, of showing, hey, this is what's coming out. But there hasn't been, what's the number? And I get it. If it's going to fail, you don't want to say, well, we need 400,000 in the next 45 days. You're not going to get it. But the other side of it is you're not being transparent to your collectors, and you're going to burn them out. And if you announce for governor because you're trying to make the petition successful because you believe that strongly in it, okay, that's fine. But what are you doing to your volunteers? And what is the potential of you actually getting that on the ballot and then succeeding? It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Because it goes into the money and stuff. And that's why the citizens only petition, it has money behind it.
Yeah.
It has tons of, and so they're going to be able to message, because you're going to have to message to educate the Michigan public on why it's needed. Because if not, the other folks are going to come in and just bury it and won't be successful. So you got to have an organization, you got to have money, and Unlock Michigan had money behind it. And that's why it was successful. So it's not discounting when you want people involved and people are involved and they're passionate about it. But it's like the state of Michigan. You got to have a plan. It has to have a process. And if you don't, then everybody gets frustrated, they get burned out, and it fails. And it's frustrating.
Yeah. You know what? The plans, look to your potential leaders for their plan. And instead of telling them that their plan is wrong, I challenge people to look at it and say, how's the plan right for you?
Yeah.
Because they're in the arena, you're not.
Yeah.
And they're trying to bring something to you. And what's that rationale? And what's it bring to you? And is it achievable? And how is that going to impact you, your spouse, your family, your community, our state? And do they have the skill set to do it?
Yeah.
And that's not too much to ask.
So let's say Kevin Rinke, who is 40, 60, 50, 50 and running for governor, you do not run.
Yeah.
Okay. You decide not doing it. We have all these candidates. We have Mike Dugan, Jocelyn Benson. Who else is running on the Democrats? Swanson is the chief.
Swanson's running.
We got Jocelyn
Gilchrist.
Gilchrist is running?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it as of right now. And then we got Dugan. Right.
That I'm aware of.
Yeah. And that's who I've heard too and know about. So can a Republican win the general?
Well, think of it this way. It's going to be very interesting again, because now we have a new element that we've never experienced. We have a viable.
Yeah, viable is a big word.
A viable independent in name candidate.
Democrat.
And really a Democrat who his party said, we're going to reject you for whatever the reason is. You're not our guy.
So he didn't fall in line like Bernie Sanders. He went rogue.
Yeah. And so, it's easy to say, well, I don't like the way the partisanship between Republicans and Democrats. Well, that independent candidate was very partisan.
Yeah.
When it benefited him. Now he's thinking that it benefits him to not be partisan. And I don't know what he is, because he sure as hell isn't saying what he wants to do, but he is appealing to people by saying, I don't like the partisanship. So where I'm going with it is traditionally you have two parties, and is it 53% to 47%, whatever. This time, I believe we are going to elect a governor with under 35% of the popular vote. Under 35% of the popular vote.
It's
Maybe
that
I'm wrong.
close. It's that you think it's going to be that close.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I heard he's getting a lot of Republican money too.
He's getting a lot of Republican money. And yeah, I don't want to give energy to any campaign,
Yeah.
but his strategy of I drove up north this past weekend, and I think I passed 11 billboards
Yeah. They're everywhere.
that said
America's
America's
mayor.
most effective
mayor. Most
mayor.
effective mayor. Yep.
Now, what I find interesting is people call me up and say, "Who's Mike Duggan?" I saw a billboard. What city is he the mayor of? And there's a lot of people that don't know what city he's the mayor of. But you know what they do know? That he's the most effective.
mayor.
And that's one element. So he's appealing to a broader group. But what people in Michigan have to realize is they say, oh, he doesn't have statewide name recognition. He doesn't need it to win.
He only needs the major counties, right?
Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. If you win those three counties, you are the governor every single time. Whether people like to hear that or not,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean your vote doesn't count.
Yep.
But that's where he's got most of his name recognition. So any residual that he can get, he doesn't have the challenges that either the Democrats or the Republicans have, because, as we spoke about earlier, the issues for Duggan are the same as they are for the Democratic candidate. They're the same as the Republican candidate, but he's not going to have to go through a primary where people are going to start to attack him personally.
And spend the money.
And he doesn't have to spend the money.
Yep.
And let me tell you, I guarantee you, Mike Duggan has spots in his underwear, just like all of us, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But he's not going to have those thrown out in people's faces.
And not for months beforehand either. It's
not for
be
months beforehand.
30, 60 days.
Like the Republicans, at some point, someone's going to crack, someone's going to break. It's either going to be direct or it's going to be their super PAC that says, well, so-and-so, do you realize that, so-and-so was accused of this 40 years ago? Like what they did to me.
Yeah.
What they didn't tell you is I was accused of and found not to be guilty of it.
Yeah. You even had a guy that was going to come out and talk about that. He was one of your accusers, wasn't he?
I had two of them, actually.
Two of them to say they did it for their own
the
purposes.
general election.
Yeah.
We're actually going to say, you know what? This is why we did it.
Yeah.
And sadly enough, it was for money.
Does Kevin Rinke run as another independent in this race?
You know what? I don't even know how that would play, and if there'd have to be a primary between two independents, if both of them could just get simply on the ballot.
If you get your signatures, right?
You know what? I think that's true.
That would be interesting. What about the rumor about you running for John James's congressional seat?
Well, it's
there's a lot of people have come up and talked to you about that, obviously.
Yeah. And I'm honored at the thought of it. I believe that my skill set in politics is more suited to being a governor.
I would agree with that.
I'm concerned that in Macomb County, which is a tough county, which is angry about John's actions, they still may support him to a degree, but that county's angry. And traditionally, it's what we call Reagan Republicans that determine who's elected in Macomb County. That seat is really vulnerable. We have a nice young man that's running right now, but I don't know that he can raise the money necessary. And that was the most expensive congressional seat in America. The NRCC spent $42 million on John James to get him elected this past time. to beat Carl Marlinga. And the time before that, they spent $40 million. So in 4 years, over $80 million. And the guy walks away from the seat because he doesn't want to be a congressman. For me, that's a problem.
That's a problem for our country to hold the House.
Well, that's a second issue. But man, if he would have said, I only want to be a 2-term congressman, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But people don't say that.
No.
And
that would be a question I would like to ask him. Like, what was your decision-making process?
well, he's going to say that God told him, or that his
That
wife
doesn't-
told him, or that his kids told him. Whatever the issue is,
Yeah.
here's a point that I struggle with. And I've said this to John, and I still struggle with it. You took all that money, and in less than 60 days after being elected, you said you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And you have the responsibilities of being a congressman that you're still trying to fulfill. I don't know, maybe he should resign from Congress to focus on his gubernatorial run. Maybe he should resign right now. And what happens if a congressperson resigns? Does the Republican Party get to appoint one? I don't know.
There's some type of special election?
Is
Like
there
there
a
is with the
special
state rep?
election? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But, I think John wants it both ways
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, he's smart. And his political handlers are smart because President Trump needs to kiss John and keep him close to get his vote, even
Yeah.
though John's record only shows that he votes with him 58% of the time. But he's got to kiss him and keep him close because the House is so close.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe Michigan would be better served if he resigned and we had a special election. But I hate the thought of that because who pays for the special election? Millions of dollars later? The
Yeah.
taxpayers.
Yeah, it does. So are you considering that? You 50-50 on that?
I want to serve Michigan. And I want to serve Michigan in the most constructive fashion that I can. And that may include getting the hell out of the way because I'm so radical with it. Years ago, I looked at Congress and it wasn't for me for a whole litany of reasons. And will I consider it? Yes, because I'm flattered and I want to serve the people of Michigan. I want to serve my country. It's a really hard decision, Garrett. The requirements to do that, getting on an airplane 3 days a week. I'm going to tell you something that I wouldn't like about Congress and that people don't understand. So I don't want to be a sitting congressman and have some 30-year-old guy that works for the National Committee call me up and say, Congressman Rinke, you need to raise more money to donate to the NRCC this week.
And that determines what committee and stuff you get
And
on, correct?
that determines how you are treated in Congress. And so, here's a guy who's getting paid by the taxpayers telling someone who's trying to serve the taxpayers that he's got to take more money from the taxpayers to give it to the... So, here's another example. I don't want whoever the head of the Congress is, and in this case, Speaker Johnson, coming to me and saying, Kevin, this is how you have to vote.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that I'm going to make my own decisions.
I think you should.
And I'm not going to be threatened. I'm not going to be bullied. I've got enough of it in me where I'd look at him and say, F off. But then can I be effective for Michigan? Even though I'm doing the right thing by not playing the game, can I play the game? And that's a consideration. And I'm being realistic.
Well, I think you could play your own game because the way I look at it, you were going to spend 15-20 on a possible gubernatorial campaign. I'm thinking you're probably going to come out of pocket 5 to 10 for Congress. If
I would suspect if I ran.
Let's say.
Yeah.
So you got 10 million. So when that little snot-nosed person comes up, you just write them a $250,000 check and tell them to F off. And you do it that way, right? And then you can do your own show. and you can say, you know what, here's what I stand for. This is the committee. Because selfishly, I just like great people in great positions, or good people in good positions, right? That's what I want. But I can see you like on a committee. I can see you on like some of the educational committees. I can see you on some of the the national security committees that they have. That would be stimulating for me personally to be
Yeah.
on those types of things, to have that influence.
Yeah.
And I think you would thrive in that kind of executive kind of role that you've had in the past.
Yeah, and what I'm looking at is, to be one of 453 or
Yeah.
458, it's better when you are in the majority, like you currently are. No doubt, Republicans are going to be challenged in 26 across the country. And, the last thing I would want to be is a freshman minority congressman in Washington, D.C. at 65 years of age. I'd turn around and say, bag it.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest. And those are part of the decisions.
That is
The
a hard decision.
commitment to people, the commitment to time, the sacrifice of your family to do the right thing, and then the ability to get a result. See, I'm scared to death of Congress because as one of 453, even if it's the right thing, I don't know that I can force the result.
Well, especially
It's hard.
And a lot can happen in a year
Yeah.
with this election cycle, right? I mean, who knows where our country's going to do? What happens if the court rules in favor or against President Trump and his tariffs?
Yeah.
What happens then? Does the economy go in shambles? And if the economy's going down and everything's going down really fast, people are going to vote for the other party. That's just what naturally happens. So even if you put all this money in and you are the right candidate, people are going to be like, no, we're going this way.
Well, again, it's part of the process, and I study things, and before I make decisions, and people don't always like that, and I'm very deliberate. And if I say something, I want to know that I can do it, and not just talk about it. And we've got a lot of people that just simply talk, and because Americans have short memories, some of them get away with just talking year after year after year. But that's why I think we've gone backwards. I don't forget when I make a commitment. My friendships aren't conditional. My love for my state isn't conditional. My love for my country isn't conditional. No matter who the president is, I still love America. I still support the opposition president, even if I don't vote for him, as it relates to the country. I don't buy into their political philosophy, but I still support them in my actions as an American. And it's something really significant to me. And so if I make a decision in that area, Garrett, I want to be upfront about it. I would only, I think, consider 2 or 3 terms. And maybe
So you
that's,
could run on term limits, which I think would be very popular.
well, yes, but no. I mean, you got to be careful what you ask for there. Term limits are great if you figure out what the right number of years are.
Yeah, who knows what that is?
Term limits have not worked well in Michigan.
Yeah.
But in part because they've been manipulated by all of the lobbyists who looked at term limits as an opportunity to say, cha-ching, now you need me.
Yeah.
And the political process is a business, and it is
big business.
It is a backdoor business.
Yeah.
It is a swamp. It is a situational value business. And that's why it takes really strong people. I talk about Rick Snyder, and there's a lot of people on the right that didn't like Rick Snyder for 1 or 2 issues. But overall, that guy was a business guy that when he left, we had $900 million of surplus funds. The state was functioning better. They came up with the Flint water crisis to say, oh, the guy was bad. You know what? That's a whole different story. And it was a political story versus a factual story. That I disagreed with Rick on his Medicaid decision. And candidly, if I were governor, I would look for a way to undo that, not necessarily from covering people who are deserving of the coverage, but I would look for ways to reduce the cost because you've got multiple payments from different entities. So you may bill for one thing and get paid 5 times from, and that's where the expenses get run up. If in fact we're going to cover more people in America, and I'm okay with a minimum level of coverage for everybody. I candidly am. We have it without Medicaid or Medicare because if you show up at a hospital, the hospital has to treat you if you walk into an emergency room.
You do.
And you get it for free.
Yep.
Whether they like to admit that or acknowledge that or not, they're gonna give you papers and they're gonna threaten you and they're gonna do this or that. But for their certificate of need, they got to treat you. So we have that minimum level of care. Now we just put all these different businesses and middlemen and crap on that increase the expense. Maybe Michigan could lead the way in eliminating some of those expenses without having services suffer. Wouldn't that be novel? Although there's going to be those that would say that's anti-business because I don't look at businesses that lie, cheat, and steal as good business. I'd rather do without them, even if those people are unemployed.
So what is Kevin Rinke going to do if you don't run for governor or Congress? What are you going to do over the next, let's say, 5 years?
Well, I think that a lot of 65-year-old people look at that and say, what am I going to do if I'm not doing that? Because maybe their business careers are over. I love to hunt. I love to fish. I like the outdoors. Certainly, and my wife would argue this with me, I have hunted less, fished less, boated less over the last 4 or 5 years because of my political involvement.
Well, I have to play the devil's advocate. I've seen your trophy room. I think you've hunted everything on this planet twice over.
That's not true. That's not
There's
true.
always more to hunt, right?
Well, yes, I've hunted more than most people. B, most of that hunting was done before I got into politics.
Correct. Yeah.
Not after. And
you just got back from a nice hunt, right?
I just spent 14 days. Myself and my guide, we had 8 horses in British Columbia, Atlin, British Columbia. We rode up into the mountains. We lived like cowboys and we hunted all day long and, slept on the ground and ate freeze-dried food and got our water out of a stream and drank it without filtering it, and cowboy coffee in the morning, and got rained on, snowed on, sunburned, bug bit.
And you loved every second of it, didn't you?
I would do it 365 days a year. I love it.
That's your jam. Not a lot of people know that about you.
Well, you say, what are you going to do? My recent hobby, and for people that don't know much about me, I like to eat a lot and I like to drink good wine, but really I like to cook what I eat and I like to pair the wine with what I cook. And I have started making all of my own sausages out of wild game. I butcher all my wild game myself, process it myself, grind it myself, dry age it myself, and experimenting with all sorts of things. And so you come up with things that you love and you try and do more of them. And that's what I would do. So I might be hunting, I might be fishing. My wife is going to be angry with me because
you are going to be the male version of the Martha Stewart, right? I mean, that's what it's on, your own cooking show and your own hunting show.
Oh shit, I'd love it.
We can produce some content.
I really would
like
love
the rustic Martha Stewart. I think it would go well.
There you go. Well, Steve Rennell is a guy from Michigan.
Yeah.
I want to say from Grayling or Gaylord area. And he's got a great outdoor show that has gone national. And Steve's done very, very well, called The Meat Eater. And
oh yeah, I love that show.
The show is great. And I would love to have a show like that because it's doing what you love. It's doing it with people that have similar interests,
Yeah.
and to celebrate that full circle.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just killing something. It's every bit as much fun. By the way, on my 14-day hunt, I was not successful in killing an animal. And the beauty of it is, I'm going to go back and keep looking.
But you had opportunities to, but you did not
I
do
chose not to.
it. Chose not to, which takes discipline.
Chose not to. But I'm blessed in the fact that I can go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And as long as you're healthy, you know, it's how do you spend your time?
You could produce the heck out of that.
Oh yeah, all day long.
Oh,
I mean, it would be fun.
We'd have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd have to, I like the meat eater name on it, but
Yeah.
you know, it's our Wounded Warrior hunt that I, for people that don't know, I've got a camp that I go to down in Kentucky, and I bring in Wounded Warriors, and we sell at auction, at conservation events, the opportunity to hunt with the Wounded Warrior. So they come to our place in Kentucky. We take them hunting. They shoot the animal. We then bring them into the butcher shop, and
Which is on site.
it's on site.
Yep.
We butcher the animal for them. We make sausage with them. We teach. I got to be honest, we're not too far from the bourbon trail. We drink a little bit of bourbon, and it's really good bourbon. And we send them home with homemade sausage. We smoke it on the smokers. We age it. We grind it. We cut it. We wrap it. It's really cool. And by the way, a lot of people don't understand that when you are grievously injured, and we do it with Wounded Warriors, but it could be someone from a car accident.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be normal. You want to do things that you used to have a passion for and love. And participating in the outdoors is something that is a common thread for a lot of our warriors. You know, they're a little bit more rugged than the average citizen.
Yeah.
And the training that they go through makes them more rugged. And that spirit and peace that you find in the outdoors, that predator prey, very similar in many, many ways to the environment that they've come out of. And it's rewarding for me. It is rewarding for the warriors, and it's rewarding for the bidders that they can contribute to someone's life in a positive fashion. So
Everybody wins.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do more of that.
And how often do you do that? I mean, just one a year?
No, this year we're doing 2 hunts.
Okay.
And yeah, we don't have a big place, but we do what we can do.
Yeah.
And the entity that I work with, we actually do, I think it's roughly 40 or 50 warriors a year, just not all at my place. They're at other locations around the
Yeah.
country. We take them fishing. We take them hunting. Crazy with today's technology. You know, there's a gentleman that is blind, and he was burned 98% of his body when an IED blew up his vehicle. Actually, his fingers melted off. But he used to love to bird hunt. And there is technology out there that we actually put this gentleman in the front of a Jeep in a seat, and we slowly drive, and there's dogs out in front working. And when the bird flushes the technology and through sound, can't see, he can actually point the gun, pull the trigger, and this guy can shoot birds.
Wow.
Think of how rewarding that is to him
Oh, absolutely.
when everything's been taken away.
Yeah.
His sight, his hands, his ability, you know, to be normal.
It's funny. I've never thought of it that way. They just want to be normal. They want to do the things that they could do before, but they're unable in that aspect. But they're finding ways to live that experience again. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I've never met a wounded veteran whose first goal wasn't to get back to the people in his platoon,
Yeah. That
to
warrior ethos,
that
right?
warrior ethos, and how he can serve them still because that's normal. That he's a piece of that puzzle. And that's the first hurdle that they've got to get over.
Yeah.
That's more important many times than their personal families, because the personal families are processing a different form of loss. Than the warrior. That brotherhood that bonds those people together is real. It is genuine. I've never been blessed to have been a part of our military to experience it firsthand, but I have been blessed to see it firsthand with wounded warriors and how they interact with each other, and that bond and that commitment to our country, to what is right, to what we stand for, to the branch that they serve in is so damn compelling, and it should be celebrated. Personally, I think all of our children should be forced to be in the military
Like
before, in between
like
high school
Israel
and
does that,
college.
right? Like you got to serve.
There's several countries that require service. Um, you know, Again, I think that would strengthen America.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
And it's not about training people to go out and kill people. That's an element. But you know what it is about? Training people to contribute to something bigger than themselves. And all this artificial intelligence that we have is individualistic in nature. People don't have friendships, they don't socialize, they don't know how to do the right thing, because the right thing is only what they want.
Yeah.
We are becoming very, very selfish. And I believe that work ethic, that, you know, when you're in the military, it doesn't matter what color somebody's skin is, they're your brother,
Yeah.
you know. And for the ladies out there, they still look at you as a brother if you're in that unit.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a responsibility, and there's a commitment, and there's a level of trust. All things that people who never get that opportunity in today's world because of societal changes don't get a chance to experience and don't understand. So I would do more, candidly, um, in raising money for wounded warriors, in participating in the rehabilitation of those people.
That that's one hell of a legacy to leave. I mean, when
There's
you
nothing wrong with it.
no, my goodness gracious. I mean, that when you look at the options that are on the table, I mean, that one is the most appealing to me.
Yeah.
Especially my brother and my dad are veterans. I mean, that's awesome that you do that, and then that level,
Yeah.
that depth. You're just not writing a check. You are in the trenches per se, helping these folks.
Well, you learn to give back a little bit. And candidly, I didn't understand giving back. I wasn't always involved with Wounded Warriors,
Yeah,
in the particular Wounded Warrior group. But when I had my post acute traumatic brain injury business, those people went from being disfigured, the filter that I put them through, disfigured, wards of the state, not capable, to being people that I really cared about and wanted to create a new normal for,
yeah,
and that level of compassion. When we had the autism services business that I was a part of, um, to understand that giving and the value of it is really powerful. And that's missing in America. So there are things I can do, um, that are different to serve a smaller group. But I know this, that some level of service is in my future,
yeah.
and we'll see what that is.
Yeah, I think you have some pretty pretty powerful options in the impact that you're going to be able to create with whatever decision path that you make, which I think is fantastic. The best advice I can give you is follow your heart, right?
Yeah.
That's the best advice that was ever given to me. I mean, that's for what's at stake. Selfishly, I always want to put people where I think they can have the biggest impact for the country. But by the end of the day, you got to follow your heart.
Well, yeah. People can do good things on an individual basis. They
Yeah.
can do it on a community basis. They can do it on a statewide basis. They can do it on a federal, national basis. As long as they're doing something.
So we have a call out. Got to reiterate. Tom Leonard is coming on here next month.
Next
I
month.
think, have a conversation with us. We're going to put out a shout out to Eric Nesbitt, hopefully his team.
Yep.
That he comes on. And John James, hopefully you come on and just have a candid conversation. Mike Duggan, I would love to have him come on and have a conversation.
Let's ask them.
Yeah, like come on, let's see, come on, let's have a conversation. It's simple. I want to know what you're going to do for the state of Michigan. Who else have you talked to? Was it Craig that you talked to that you wanted to come on the show?
Jim Craig?
No, Craig Mauger.
Oh, Craig Mauger. Yeah, Craig. I went to Jim Craig, the political side. Yeah, Craig Mauger. It's funny because he is a reporter that
Detroit
works
News.
Detroit News,
And I have a good relationship with Craig.
I have a good relationship with Craig.
Yeah.
But I don't have any relationship with Craig because, as a rule, he won't answer my call.
He won't answer your call.
No, he doesn't like to do that. I don't know what Craig. Maybe I scare him.
We should call him. Let's see if he'll
Because I'm
pick
not.
up the phone.
You want to mess with Craig a little bit?
Let's mess with. Well, we're
Let's
going
see
to
if
tell
we
him.
can get. I think we should have Craig Mauger on the show, and if he won't do it with me, maybe he'll do it with both of us.
I would. Let's ask him.
Let's call him and ask him.
So we're going to put you on the speaker. We're going to put you on the spot, Craig. Here we go.
You're hitting the ringer?
I'm going to put him on speaker. Here we go.
Put it right by the speaker.
This is Craig Mauger. Please leave me a message.
Oh, he's not taking your call
he
today
didn't
either.
take my call. Well, we're still going to leave a message.
Let's leave a message.
What's that?
Maybe on Do Not Disturb, it'll ring once and go right to voicemail. If you ring twice, it should ring through.
We're going to call him again?
Call him again.
How do you know that, Tony?
See, technologically speaking.
I'm the old guy now.
This is Craig Mauger.
Oh, I'm not worthy. Let's leave him a voicemail.
Record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Craig, oh man, are you lucky we went to voicemail? Not once, but twice. We were going to put you on the spot. I have my main man here, Mr. Kevin Rinke. We're doing a podcast. We're not live. This is taped, but Kevin just informed me that he invited you to come on his show, and you haven't yet.
You're playing dodgeball, Craig.
You're playing dodgeball.
Coming
And-
up with excuses.
And I heard you have to ask your bosses if you're able to. So we're going to put you on the spot. So we're having a show right now. We're bringing guests on. So we wanted to put a call out to you to see if you would like to come on and just have a conversation with me and Kevin. But not only politics, but about life and everything else. So we are going to put this on the podcast, Craig. So you will be put on the spot. But hey, give me a call back, buddy. We'll talk about it.
Take it easy, Craig. Looking forward to you.
Bye-bye. Awesome.
He's going to shit his pants.
It'll be great.
Oh, my God.
Well, speaking of East Side folks, I got to give a shout out to my boy. If you're visiting the Detroit area, okay, a Dream Limousine and Sedan serving Southeast Michigan for over 20 years with late model sedans, SUVs, vans, limos, and party buses up to 40 passenger capacity. Kevin, do you realize the big party that we could do if we did this? If we rented a sedan or one of these limos?
Well, I think
Party
we should
bus?
have a party.
They're guided towards the Detroit, complete with sub sandwiches and Detroit's own better made potato chips. Have you had those potato chips?
They are really, really good. I actually toured the factory, the Better Made Potato Chip Factory.
Really?
And as dumb as it sounds, it's fascinating to see the automation that goes into making a potato chip, bagging it, cooking it, getting it salted perfectly, and the number of people that they employ. Better Made's a long-time Michigan company.
And where are they at? Where was the
Right
factory at?
in Detroit.
In D-Town. Well, shoot. If you're interested, all right, a Dream Limousine and Sedan, any party, any size, any time, I will put this in the description of this video. It's www.adreamlimo.com. You can reach them at 734-542-6800.
How do you know this guy?
He was a huge supporter, Dave Garr. Great guy. Epic hair. Epic hair. So he was to always come to a lot of our events and stuff. So I hook him up on the Grassroots Army podcast and give him a little shout out. So if you're ever in the Detroit area, give my man a call.
There
Great
you go.
Patriot.
Dave?
Very good.
Hell, I may call him.
Man, who else can we call and just like bother? The list is long. Okay, let me get. What's that? Yeah. No. Hey, you know
Tootie.
what? Tutor. I will reach out to Tutor. I like this concept of you and I just talking. I do. We've done an interview with it, but I kind of like to sit down and we just have a little powwow with some people and just talk about some things. I think Michigan would like that.
I couldn't agree more. I would love to have Tudor. I think it would actually be comical, to reflect on the last election and where are we today, and really how do we want to continue to contribute? Where do we see ourselves going?
Is she running for anything? I mean, there's rumors.
I think it will be interesting because I have heard that she's going to be on Mackinac Island the weekend of the 19th.
Is that where you're doing the forum?
Yeah, I'm
deal?
doing a panel,
A panel.
on the island. And there is speculation that she may make an announcement. Personally, I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah. Who knows in Michigan?
With John Yob and Perry being at the ball game together, maybe Perry's going to be up on the island supposedly. Who knows? He could be making an announcement.
More the merrier, I guess. It's just it's mind-boggling.
It's so goofy.
Yeah, it really is. I just see like the hunting, the wounded warrior, that just seems more fulfilling than this garbage game called politics.
Well, politics is a mess. The only thing that in your life, you are, someone is a chiropractor who you measure your success by how you make other people feel better.
Correct. Yeah.
You are contributing to them, their families, and their ability to live life. Well, as a business owner, that's really the same thing that I wanted to do for my employees. Was if I ran a good business, if I gave them the opportunity through the environment that I was blessed to be able to create to be successful, that was my reward, because success is what? Results.
Yeah.
So that's really, in politics, I think that's why you got involved. I think that's why I was involved. It wasn't about you, and it certainly isn't about me, because we're the ones giving up everything for
Yes.
other people.
Yes. I will not run. I mean, I can never say never. I hate to say never, but 99.99% sure that I'll never run for anything here in the future. I just don't want to get involved. I think I have more of an impact of having conversation with people, but it's kind of like where people have this perception of the ultra rich. Like if you want to make $1 billion, serve 1 billion people. That's what it is.
It only takes $1 at a time.
Yeah. I mean, that amount of success, you have to serve humanity.
There was a great speech given by the head of the Navy SEALs, and it talked about how you change society. And people should look it up.
Is
It's
it the Make Your Bed speech?
Make Your Bed.
Yeah. He wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's become very political, which is sad to me.
Oh, he has. I wasn't aware of that.
But that aside, to hear him lay out how your actions can create a difference and
Yeah.
make a difference, not just for yourself, but for others, is really compelling. And I would encourage everybody. My kids, when I'm down or when I'm pissed at something that they're doing or not doing, I call them in, I make them sit down. To this day, they're both graduates from college. All three of them are graduated from college. One's a mother, and I pull out my laptop and I hit the Make Your Bed, and they're like, "Dad, not again. We've seen that 45 times." Well, then do it.
Absolutely. And there's another good speech. My 15-year-old son brought it up last night is, Dad, have you ever watched Tom Brady's acceptance speech into the Hall of Fame?
No, I've never seen it.
It's really good. I mean, there's a million TikToks of it out there, but I watched it. It's very powerful. And there's a lot of other things with him is, how one play can change not only someone's career, but can change the NFL. And that was when Drew Bledsoe got injured on that hit. which allowed Tom Brady to come in and win the game.
Yep.
That changed the NFL.
Yep.
You know, and it's just like, you never know. Then we said this, what small act that you may say or do that may literally change the lives of millions tomorrow. You don't know when it's going to hit,
Well,
but you better be prepared.
I brought it up. Everybody in Michigan, everybody in America is going to experience different events or different moments, you know, and Drew Bledsoe that you just brought up. And I remember that. I didn't remember that it was Bledsoe. I remember the
Yep.
quarterback getting hurt, Brady coming in. He became a leader. For me, it was when my brother was killed.
Yeah.
You know, had that opportunity and had a whole range of ways that I could have responded. But that's truly when I became a leader, you know, where I gave myself to everyone else for their benefit.
At a very young age.
24.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was probably 22, 23, 24, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 24, I bet he was. Yeah, because
You know,
4 years in Michigan.
It happens in the military. Maybe, you know, the captain is killed and somebody steps up, and you never know. But leaders seize those opportunities, and they don't necessarily do it consciously. They do it unconsciously
Yeah.
because that's just who they are.
Yeah, to the core.
And all of a sudden, they realize that that's who they are.
Yeah.
You know, I never knew how I would react and who would think about, you know, how are you going to react at that moment? A lot of people get scared. A lot of people fail. The good Lord blessed me. The good Lord blessed Tom Brady. The good Lord blesses lots of people.
And I think it's natural for that first reaction to be doubt and fear, but you can harness that energy and direct it into something very powerful.
Yeah.
It's what you do with
Yeah.
that fear, right?
You did it. You
Yeah.
know, it when you were leading the defense at Western Michigan. I
Yep.
mean, it's we all have challenges.
Yep.
And so many people try and say, well, yours are different than mine. You know what? A challenge is a challenge. And it's how people process it that is what's different. Not that it's a challenge. You know, it's not better or worse, right or wrong. It's just who you are. And yeah, so many people, oh, yeah, it's different for you. You know, rich people don't have to worry about the things that poor people have to worry about.
Always an excuse.
Well, yeah, again, at the end of the day, you know, people worry about their families, their health, their jobs, their lives.
Yeah.
Uh,
So obviously you're a huge Detroit Lions and Tigers and Red Wings fan, correct?
you know, I'm more of a hockey guy and baseball guy than I've been a Lions guy.
Let's go to hockey real quick. What was your favorite kind of 5 to 10 years with the Red Wings?
So I really liked the Red Wings when they had Bob Probert, Darren McCarty, and Joey Kocur. You know, they had,
That was in the early 90s?
yeah, you know, they
Was that
had
before the
skill.
Fedorov and
They had toughness. Sergey was coming in playing, and Sergey played with Proby and McCarty.
wasn't that like the Russian
Well, they had the Russian five.
the Russian five,
And
the lineup?
yeah, they had the Russian five. But yeah, that mixture of, and I say it all the time, how everybody has a role.
Yeah.
You know, well, the price of admission in those days, you know, people didn't realize that when Bob Probert, who kicked everybody's ass, was playing in the NHL, when he was in juniors, he was scoring 100 goals a year.
I did not know that.
He,
He's a big old bruiser.
Darren McCarty, incredibly talented as a goal scorer
Yeah.
in lower hockey,
Didn't know that.
but figured out a role, figured out their niche, figured out a way to contribute. Joey Kocur had the biggest fists I've ever seen. Man, it would be like a sledgehammer coming at you. Stevie Yzerman,
Yeah.
you know, Stevie had his moment when Scotty Bowman came.
Yep.
You know, Stevie went
Couple
from
championships.
a good hockey player to a great hockey player because Scotty forced him to develop his whole game. You know, leaders inspire other people to do great things, inspire other people to get results that maybe, just maybe, they couldn't get on their own. And the leader is doing it for the other person.
Yeah.
You know, they value it based on the results that they get for other people.
I think the favorite game that comes right off the top of my head was when there was that rivalry with the Colorado Avalanche.
Was that it?
Oh, you were at that
I
game?
was at that game.
So were you at the game where the year before they hit Draper into the wall, right?
Yep.
And then the whole season went by, the off season, and then there it is, they're back. And it was
So-
the best entertaining game
My
ever. You were
I
at
had
that game.
I was at that game. It's so funny because I was in the suite, the Channel 7 suite for that game. My wife was pregnant, and we walked into Joe Louis Arena, and I have never felt energy like that before. And I remember looking at her and saying, this place is going to explode. And what really got the whole thing going that night was Igor Larionov, one of the Russian five,
Yep.
who was a finesse guy, not a fighter, gets into a fight and all hell breaks
It was before the
loose.
puck was even dropped,
No,
wasn't
no,
it?
no, 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 no. The puck was dropped.
Okay.
You could see when they were warming up, very rare that the officials were standing at center ice
Yeah.
to keep the two teams.
Separated?
Oh yeah, you know, and the chirping that was going on was great. But you talk about loud,
Yeah.
you talk about crazy, and you throw in a bunch of Mickey Redmond ginger ales, and I was dancing on the tables
Yeah.
to kung fu fighting in the Channel 7 suite after, you know, McCarty goes after
Lemieux.
Lemieux
Yeah.
and Igor Larionov and Brendan Shanahan just rocks Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
I mean, hilarious.
Yep.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And what sports is all about. I mean, I wish that baseball, which is with this year's Tigers, has been really entertaining, had a little bit more of the Billy Martin, Storm and Norman Cash days in it, you know, where guys could argue with umpires and
Yeah.
players would, you know, not be quite as friendly with each other.
Bring
But-
back Charlie Hustle baseball. Pete Rose.
Yeah.
I loved how he played.
You know, I did too, and going to be interesting because I think wasn't Trump beaten about how baseball should allow Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame?
I think he's eligible. I haven't caught the story, but I think he's now eligible.
I sure as hell hope so. You know what? He liked to bet. There's a lot of people out there that like to bet.
That's legal.
I don't
now.
know that he ever bet to throw a game.
He never bet against them. He always bet for the team to win. That's what I read and heard.
That's what I've read.
Yeah.
And whatever, but what a great baseball player.
Oh man, like that's who I grew up idolizing. My family's from Cincinnati originally, and I have a huge poster of his first game. And it was in, I don't know, 1963, 65, I forget what it was. And it's signed, but he was running out of the dugout with all the other Reds. And he has the biggest grin on his face, his first major league game. And it's just so cool on the excitement that he had. But what was also really cool is they showed the stands and everybody was in the suits and the hats on how
Oh, yeah.
baseball was. And I just love that old school kind of baseball, man.
So, do kids nowadays, I mean, when I think about baseball in my lifetime, I think about Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
I think about Willie Mays.
Yep. Lou
I
Gehrig.
think about, well, Lou Gehrig was before my lifetime and before yours as well, but I think about Denny McClain, 31-6. I think about Mickey Lolich and what he accomplished for the 68 Tigers. I think about Mark the Bird Fidrich. I think about Kirk Gibson's home runs.
Yeah.
You know, I think about Billy Martin and Norm Cash. When I think about the Lions, I go back to the days of Bill Munson, Joe Schmidt, Charlie Sanders. I think about Megatron, and what he brought to the game. And where I'm going with this is each sport had, in my time, heroes, people that I wanted to emulate.
Yeah.
You know, Nolan Ryan, back to baseball.
He was tough, man.
Oh my God!
Holy cow! I wouldn't want to mess with that guy on the mound.
You talk about a mean
Just
guy,
mean Texan.
mean Texan. I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Gaylord Perry.
Yep.
When I was a kid, the master of the spitball and the grease ball, and
Yep.
he would do all these things that would just piss people off. You know, crazy. Sparky Anderson.
When he was with the Reds and the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yep.
You go to the Red Wings.
Yep.
And I mean, in my lifetime, Gordie Howe and I drank out of the Stanley Cup together.
That's pretty cool.
I will never forget it, with Mark and Marty right there in Pat Verbeek's basement when the Wings, so blessed to experience
Yeah.
it. Gordie Howe was the first hockey player I ever met. Steve Yzerman, Brendan Shanahan, Vladimir Konstantinov. That accident after the Wings won the Stanley Cup
Yeah.
was a pitching iron away from my house. I walked from my home down to Woodward, and there was the tree that they'd wrap the car around.
Wow.
Crazy, these moments, but heroes, stars, things that add to your life. I don't know that kids have that anymore in sports. I'm not sure. They're missing out.
Yeah, they are.
They're missing out.
It's funny. I am sad to say the last time I was in a Tiger Stadium was 1984.
Wow.
Sitting in the bleachers. I've never been to Comerica.
Well, don't be sad.
Yeah.
I will tell you, though, and I'm going to share a secret with you. So, do you remember at the old Tiger Stadium when there was a big fight in the bleachers and they shut down the bleachers?
I don't remember that, but this is going to be good.
Oh, this is going to be good. So,
You started that fight?
well, I was somewhere involved in it, and I don't know if it was the start, the middle, or the finish, but I can tell you that we used to drive down. I was in college at Michigan State, and bleacher seats at the time were $3.
Yep.
And so we would drive down, and there was a group of us that went down there. Somehow somebody was inappropriate. They were loaded and grabbed somebody's girlfriend's butt.
Yeah.
And that turned into a beer over the head. And the next thing you know, a Donnybrook breaks out. And of course, we're all scattering and we're grabbing our girlfriends after throwing cheap shots and beers and you name it. And they shut down the center field bleachers. And they eliminated beer being sold. And I'm happy to tell you that I was part of the reason that it was shut down.
And that's why we didn't have iPhones back then.
Absolutely.
Because it would have been all people would have been
I guess I really am unelectable in my
Yeah,
back.
that's right.
For the people that accuse me of doing bad stuff, if you think that's one that I'll admit to.
I'll
Yep,
admit
I
to
was
that
in
one.
that fight.
There's no
proud
proof
of it.
But I'll admit to it.
Yeah, there's no court filing.
That's right.
Thank
Fantastic.
goodness. But yeah, times are different. How
They
people
are.
spend their times. It's interesting. So we got to get together again soon.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I'm going to get on the phones and touch base with all those folks. I'm
Yeah.
hoping they come on. So, yeah, it's just been great.
You're
It's been
on
great.
daily, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm on every couple of weeks with Beyond the Echo. And for those of you watching, I encourage you to watch Garrett's shows. I do. And I hope that you watch my show, Beyond the Echo.
What are we going to call this? Is this like when the Grassroots Army and Beyond the Echo collide, like the bleacher brawl? Beers being thrown, grabbing Tony's
I'd
butt?
like beers to be thrown back versus throwing it at each
Beyond
other.
the Grassroots.
Yeah,
right?
Beyond the Grassroots. Maybe that's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
we'll
The
see.
G&K show.
Well, I tell you what, the hunting show and the cooking show, man, I could get into.
Yeah, one of these days I'm going to say, you know what? For the next Beyond the Echo, maybe what I'll do is I'll interview Tony after serving him some of the sausage that I've made.
There you go.
And
Be
he,
fun.
yeah. I love your shirt, Tony. I do. I do. Do.
Well,
There you go.
it is fall.
There you go. Micah, do you like your dad's shirt?
And he pulls it off with his shoes. Folks, until next time, we'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did.
You know what, Garrett? Always enjoy being with you. Love you, brother. I
Love you
mean,
too, brother.
the friendship that's evolved out of being competitors is what life's all about. And until the next time on Beyond the Echo or on Garrett's show, we'll look forward to it. Take care.